Welcome and thank you for joining us here on The Factor Uncensored tonight. Now, a major national crime study shows shoplifting has spiked across the entire country. According to the Council on Criminal Justice's mid-year crime report, rates of shoplifting rose an average of 24% during the first half of 2024 compared to the same period in 2023. The spokesperson for the National Police Association, Sergeant Betsy Smith, talks about that uptick. We now see that shoplifting in this country is at an all-time high. Should we be surprised? And what are the numbers?
Well, I don't think that we should be surprised. Shoplifting continues to rise. We've seen this rise since late 2020 and on into 21. It's up by another 24%. And I want people to understand this. Crime largely is going unreported. So crime or shoplifting being up 24% is pretty extraordinary because we know up to about 42% of all crime is going unreported. So this is such terrible news, not just for the retailers, but for consumers as prices continue to rise and large retailers continue to pull out of areas who really need these retail establishments.
Pretty soon there won't be any stores in San Francisco. We know the problems they have there with the crime. Now, many retailers are not reporting the crime because it's almost a hassle to them, right?
Well, absolutely. Why report crime? Why bother to file a police report when you know that the crime is not going to be prosecuted? So very often some of these retailers will either not report it, but the small kind of mom and pop retailers, they need to report it for insurance purposes, but then their insurance premiums skyrocket. So a lot of these establishments, both large and small, just don't bother to report it, which is unfortunate because then those criminals continue to come back again and again and again. And so, of course, store owners have no choice but to either raise prices, make shopping even more inconvenient, or pull out of the neighborhoods altogether.
I once interviewed a store owner here in Houston, and he used to be vigilant about stopping the criminals, and he posted their pictures on the wall. And he says sometimes it's just, his health became a problem. He said it's too much. I can't focus on it. If they get away, they get away. But I'm not going to kill myself running after these shoplifters. And when we have, I want you to emphasize to the viewer out there who they may be saying, this doesn't affect me. But bottom line, you indicated that the prices at stores can go up as this shoplifting, this theft continues to go up.
Absolutely. Understand that when a retailer, whether they're a big corporation or, they're a small local business owner, they have somehow got to make up that loss of stolen goods. And so they really have no choice but to pass it on to the consumer. Another trend that law enforcement is seeing is we see sometimes these shoplifting incidents turn violent, again, especially when the shoplifters are confronted by a worker, the store owner, or even by law enforcement or security guards. So we see sometimes when these shoplifters are confronted, they turn violent, turning a property crime into a violent crime. And that's a really disturbing trend.
Now, for those retailers and store owners, mom and pops out there who are saying, well, if I call, it would take police forever to get there. For those who are looking for is there another way they can report it without calling the police, or maybe going to the police station or filing something electronically, depending on the department?
Most larger and mid-sized to larger police departments have an online reporting mechanism. One of the things that we recommend that store owners do is make contact with your local law enforcement. We know that most law enforcement agencies are very short-staffed, but go ahead and make contact with your local law enforcement officer. Very often, police officers police the same area of their city or county, their same beat, if you will. Make contact with them and ask them, how do you want to learn about these crimes? Should we report online? Can I call your cell phone, or should I just go ahead and call 911? One of the things that we don't want people to do is get so frustrated that they just stop reporting crime, because your police department cannot direct its resources properly if they don't know what crimes are being committed. So make sure that you are reaching out to your area police officers. Nobody hates rising crime more than cops. We want to know about it, and we want to do everything we can to help our neighborhoods combat the rise in crime.
And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. We continue our conversation with the Police Association on the uptick of shoplifting crimes, and if you should intervene, get involved if you see someone stealing. Betsy, another issue that we have continued to see in this country when it comes to crime are those individuals, groups, large groups, rushing into stores and stealing a bunch of stuff. How big of a problem is that? We haven't seen that many videos on social media like we used to see it every day. Has law enforcement been able to clamp down on that, or is that still an ongoing problem?
Many larger jurisdictions now have retail theft task forces that are designed to combat those large group theft sessions that we see, where they will rush into an establishment and steal everything they can. Very often it's a high-end establishment. But I want to warn people, just because you're not seeing it on social media doesn't mean it's not happening. You have to look at the news cycle and see that there's a lot of other things as the political process continues in this country, and the assassination attempt of Donald Trump. Just because you don't see it on social media doesn't mean it's not happening. So we have got to be vigilant as consumers. We also have to be vigilant as voters. One of the reasons that these thefts are proliferating is because they're not being prosecuted. And we have to remember that it's an elected official, your county or city prosecutor, who determines whether or not these cases get prosecuted. So be well informed as a voter, get involved in the political process, and know that you really can affect crime in your community.
Absolutely. We have a series here at Fox 26 called Breaking Bond every Wednesday night, where they take a look at all of these judges who have allowed people out on multiple bonds, even with felonies, and it's mind-blowing. So when you think about stealing compared to individuals who may have a murder felony on their record and they're still allowed on bond, theft is way down the priority list for some of these elected officials. Now, we have also seen individuals, private citizens and store employees, in some instances try to confront these groups and stop them from stealing. Do you advise that, or do you say this is a job for law enforcement? You could get yourself hurt or killed.
No amount of property is worth your life. So I understand that it's frustrating. I've seen it myself. And of course, I was a cop for 29 years. So my instinct is, when I see somebody steal something, to immediately grab them and stop them. We do not recommend jumping in like that unless someone else is being harmed. Make sure that you can call 911, you can alert store personnel immediately. And let's not forget, there are some retailers who punish their own personnel for jumping in or for even calling 911. Make sure that again, you recognize and talk to your family members about the fact that no amount of property is worth your safety or your life.
Short of being an employee at, say, a Walmart or a Ross, where they have individuals who it's their job to spot shoplifters and to stop them. But short of that, if your job tells you also you should stop theft and stop the shoplifters. What would you say to that if you're an employee and you're not equipped to do that, but your employer may be asking you to take on that role as security and you're hired as a clerk?
That's the time as an employee to sit down with your management and ask them exactly what their expectations are, what policies are in place that encourage you to confront shoplifters. I would also talk to your employer about the many instances that you can see in the media of people getting hurt trying to confront shoplifters. Again, property, money is never worth someone's life.
Absolutely not. Well, Betsy Smith, Sergeant Betsy Smith of the National Police Association, thank you for joining us here on The Factor Uncensored with your valuable advice involving law enforcement and crime. Unfortunately, the rise in crime in this country. We appreciate your time here on The Factor Uncensored.